Now we continue to talk about the definition of the middle path or the middle doctrine in respect of the dependent arising. We have mentioned 5 pairs already, and then we come to the 6 pairs of extreme. Strict determinism and strict indeterminism represent another pair of mutually exclusive positions. The first is of 2 kinds. One is the theistic determinism, which says that everything is due to the creation on the part of God. Sabam Ishara Nimana Hedu. The other is karmic determinism, which says that everything is due to past karma. Sabam Pube Kata Hedu. In direct opposition to both is strict indeterminism, or the theory of fortuitous origination, as we shall see in our chapter on the theory of moral life. It is again through dependent arising that Buddhism keeps itself equally aloof from both strict determinism and strict indeterminism. This is the 6 pairs of pair: strict determinism and strict indeterminism. What does the strict determinism means? It means that everything is decided. It is a kind of fatalism. The first refers to the strict determinism is of 2 kinds. There are 2 kinds, or there are 2 categories of strict determinism. The first one is theistic determinism. Theistic means the concept of a creating God, which says that everything is due to creation on the part of the God. Sabam. Sabam means all or everything. Sabam Isara. Isara actually means free to do anything. In Brahmanism, Isara refers to the God who is totally free to make anything. Isara. Nimana. Nimana means creation. Hedu means cause. Hedu means cause. Therefore, Sabam Isara Nimbana Hedu means all things are created because of the God. This is the first kind of determinism. Isara. For example, when we say Guan Yin, Guan Yin is Avalokita Isvara. Isvara is similar to Isara. Isvara means to get freedom. One is liberated. Avalokita means to look at. Isvara freely at one's own will. Therefore, Avalokita plus Isvara we pronounce as Avalokitesvara. Avalokitesvara. In Chinese, we call it Guan Zizai. Isara in Chinese means the 自在天, the God who can freely create anything he wants. This is the God or the Deva. Everything is because of the creation of this God. The second kind of extreme is strict indeterminism. Excuse me. The second kind of strict determinism is karmic determinism. Karmic is an adjective form of karma. Karma means action, in particular, our intentional action or our motivation. Our motivation decides everything, and our motivation can decide whether some actions are good or bad. Karmic adjective form of karma. Karmic determinism, which says that everything is due to past karma. Past karma refers to our actions of the past life. Everything is determined by our past karma, by our karma in past life. We can see that the majority of Buddhists fall into this wrong concept. We always say, oh, you're suffering now is because of your bad action in your past life. So, although we are Buddhists, but the majority of Buddhists have the wrong view of the karmic determinism. Karma can determine everything. The karma determine our fate of this life. Our past karma determines our fate, our destiny, our life of this life. This is a wrong view. We have to be very careful not to fall into the wrong concept of karmic determinism. Sabam Upikata Hetu. Sabam means everything, or all. Sabam means all things. In particular, all things happen to we sentient beings. What we encounter in this life. Sabam. Pupe means the past or the previous. Kata means making. The previous making, that means the past karma. Hetu means the cause, because of. Everything is because of what we made in past life. Indirect opposition to birth is strict indeterminism, or the theory of fortuitous origination. Indirect opposition, that means the opposite side, the opposite extreme of strict determinism is the theory of fortuitous origination. Fortuitous means accidental. There is no cause. There are no conditions. It is accidental. Everything happens accidentally. What our life is only accidental. It has nothing to do with our past karma. It has nothing to do with any external factors. So here we understand that the theistic determinism actually is the theory of all religions except Buddhism. Other religions believe that the God can decide everything, can determine everything. And the karmic determinism refers to Jainism. Jainism believes that our life, our present life, is due to our past karma. Therefore, the Jainism followers want to torture themselves. They practice the self-mortification in order to purify their body. When their body is purified, then their mind can be purified. And at that, they believe they are liberated. This is the karmic determinism. As we cited before, the Jainism is very similar to Buddhism. Both Buddhists have the wrong concept of the Jainism. We have to be very careful to understand the correct meaning of the Buddha Dharma. And the other extreme is in determinism. We can call determinism as fortuitous origination, accidental origination. Everything in our life is accidental. We cannot find any cause, we cannot find any conditions, we cannot find any clue. Everything in our life just happened. There is no reason, there is no condition in it. It happens accidentally. As we shall see in our chapter on the theory of moral life, it is again through dependent arising that Buddhism keeps itself equally aloof. Means Buddhism transcends both of them, from both strict determinism and strict indeterminism. Now we come to the next pair of extremes that dependent arising tries to transcend. This is the seventh pair of extremes. We call it the self-causation or other causation or eternal causation. Dependent arising also provides a middle position answer to the very natural question posed as to why a human being experiences what he or she experiences. Is it due to self-causation or eternal causation? Or is it due to both or neither? From the Buddhist perspective, human experience, whether it is pleasant or painful, is neither self-caused nor other cause, nor both cause, nor due to accidental circumstances, aditya samupanya, but is of dependent arising, pratitya samuppanna. We have the seven pair of extremes. The first one is self-causation. Self-causation. It means that what we experience now was due to what we met in our past life. This is self-causation. And Jainism has this kind of concept that everything happened in this life is due to past karma of our past life. It is totally because of our karma. And also, we have to be very careful that the majority of Buddhism are Buddhists. After they listen to the teachings of Buddha Dharma, then they attribute all their experiences to their past karma. However, in Buddhism, we say that there are 5 niyamas. Niyama means principle. There are 5 niyamas to determine our life. The first niyama is called Dhamma niyama. Dhamma niyama. Dhamma niyama means if we practice Dhamma, then we can change our life, we can change our experience. The next one is called Citta niyama. Citta means our mind. Our mind can also influence or determine our decision or our experiences. And the next one is called Uttu niyama. Uttu niyama. Uttu means the weather or the external factors. They can influence our experiences. And then we have also the karma niyama. Karma niyama means what we experience now is the result or the effect of our past karma. Actually, there are 5 niyamas or 5 principles or 5 laws to influence our experience. So Buddhism doesn't accept self-causation. And the majority of Buddhists believes in self-causation. We usually attribute our experience now to what we did in the past life. This is totally wrong. And the other extreme is called external causation. External causation means that our experience is determined by the factors outside our body and mind. Or is it due to the birth or neither of them? In total, there are 4 theories. However, from the Buddhist point of view, human experience, whether it is a present experience or painful experience, is neither self-caused. Because in Buddhism, we don't have the concept of self. It means anatta or anatma. There is no self at all. If there is no self, how can we have the concept of self-causation and self-experience? There is no self. There is no ego. It is anatta. There is no self-cause, no other cause. Other is the other side of concept of ego or birth cause, due to accidental circumstances. Accidental means something happened due to nothing. It just happened accidentally. We cannot expect, we cannot predict anything. Everything happens accidentally. Aditya, aditya samupanna. Aditya means nihilism. Nihilism. Everything just happens accidentally and then disappears and then nothing exists at all. This is called accidental circumstances. But Buddhism believes in dependent arising. The Buddhist theory of dependent arising keeps equally aloof from all relative views of point. Paticca samuppanna. Paticca means conditions. Samuppanna means happening. There are only conditions happening. And everything is in the flow of changing. It is dynamic. Nothing remains the same as the past or in the future. Then we come to the eighth pair of extremes. Another aspect of dependent arising, as the middle doctrine, can be seen in relation to the two cosmogonical theories, which seeks to explain the absolute beginning of the universe, Pupandakapika. Along with the ultimate direction, it is heading for Aparanta Kapika, according to the Buddha. No temporal beginning of the universe is conceivable. For Buddhism, therefore, the questions relating to the uncaused first cause of the consummation of the universe in its ultimate destiny do not arise. Buddhism concentrates not on the origin or end of the order, but on the order itself. As such, the purpose of dependent arising is not to explain how it all began, nor to explain how it will finally end, but to show how things occur. Another aspect of dependent arising is the middle doctrine or Madhyamaka. Madhyamaka is not only the view of the Panya or the Prajna Paramita Sutras, but from the very beginning of Buddhism, middle doctrine or middle path, Madhyamaka, is the central theory. Can be seen in relation to two cosmogonical theories. Cosmogonical means the happening or the creation of the cosmos or the universe. Cosmogonical theories are the theories discussing how our cosmos happened, which seek to explain the absolute beginning of the universe. The absolute beginning of the universe means the very beginning, or the first cause, the first origin of the universe. In all religions except Buddhism, all the religions believe that there is a creator God. There is a God. God is the absolute beginning of the universe. The God is always there. The God is the beginning. Nothing or no one exists ahead of God, and God is the first beginning of the universe. Pupanta kapika. Pupanta. Pupanta in Pali means the past. The past. Kapika. Kapika comes from the word kappa. 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 Kappa is the longest term of time, the longest time, which we cannot measure. It means kappa. It is a unit of time. And here, kapika means the concept or thinking of time of cycle. Pupanta kapika means the theory of the absolute beginning of the universe. And the second one, along with the ultimate direction it is heading for. Ultimate direction, aparanta. Aparanta means future. Future. The theory of the future kappa. It means that in the future, the universe will end or will disappear. This is the absolute end of the universe. But in Buddhism, we don't accept these two cosmological theories. Although we say that the universe, actually we cannot call it universe. Universe is a term in Christianity. Uni means one. There is only one cosmos. But in Buddhism, we say there are immeasurable cosmos, not only one. Therefore, we cannot call it universe in Buddhism. We have to call it proto-vos, or immeasurable vos. Although Buddhism has the concept of the cycle of birth, existence, change, and extinction. But it is a cycle. When the world or when the cosmos extinguishes or disappears, the next cycle of birth will come. This is the concept in Buddhism. Buddhism believes that everything is happening in a cycle of birth, existence, change, and extinction. There's no end, and of course, there's no beginning. According to Buddha, no temporal beginning of the universe is conceivable. Temporal is the concept related to time, or we can call it in terms of time. In terms of time, it is the opposite of space. We have the time and we have the space. When we want to explain something about time, then we use the adjective temporal. Temporal is the concept related to time. There's no beginning in terms of time of the universe. Of the universe, actually, we have to say, of the cosmos or of the world is conceivable. Cannot believe, we cannot conceive that there is a very beginning of the cosmos or the world. For Buddhism, therefore, the questions relating to the uncalled force cause, uncalled force cause, usually refers to the creator God. The God is uncalled, but the God is the first cause of everything, of all the beings. Therefore, we call the creator God as the uncalled force cause. And in Chinese tradition, for example, in Confucianism or in Taoism, there is also a uncalled force cause. We call it Wuji. In I Ching, the book of change, Wuji is believed to be the very beginning of our cosmos, of our world. Therefore, Buddhism says that even Confucianism or Taoism don't really understand the reality of our life, the world, because they believe there is Wuji before Taiji. Wuji is the uncalled force cause. So many Buddhist monks in the past always says that Confucianism and Taoism are heresy. They are heretics. They have no correct understanding of our life, of our world. They are proclaimed as heretics, or we may call them heterodox. Heterodox means wrong, wrong concepts. They have the wrong concept. Only the Buddha. Buddha said meditation under the Bodhi tree, in contemplation. After his mind is totally calm, then he observed himself, his five khandhas. He discovered that there is no atta, there is no atma of his personality. And then he observed the whole world, other human beings. They discovered that actually there is no absolute beginning and no absolute ending of everything, including the human beings and non-human existence. Buddhism, the questions relating to the uncalled force cause under the consumption of the universe. Consumption means the end, or the ultimate end, or the final end. The final end of the universe in its ultimate destiny do not arise. It means that in Buddhism, we don't believe that there are uncalled for cause, and there is no ending of the universe or the world or anything. Buddhism concentrates not on the origin or the end of the order. Order here means everything arises, exists, changes, and then extinguishes, disappears. This is called an order, stage by stage. Buddhism concentrates not on the origin of the order, and also not on the end of the order, because there is no beginning and there is no end of the order. Everything is just like a cycle, rotates all the time. There is no beginning, there is no existence, and there's no changing, there is no ending in the absolute principle. We say nothing exists. This is the theory of the Prajna Paramita Sutras, or the Panya in Pali, Panya Sutras. As such, the purpose of dependent origin is not to explain how it all began, because there is no beginning. So dependent origin doesn't explain the beginning of our life or the beginning of the cosmos, or the world, or anything. Dependent origin also doesn't explain how it will finally end, because there is no ending, because everything is in a cycle. Arises, exists, changes, and disappears. And after disappearance, something will arise again. This is a kind of cycle. But to show how things occur, because according to dependent origin, there's no beginning and no end. So it is no way to explain the beginning or the end of our life or the world. What we concern is how things occur. How things occur here refers to how our experience occurs, how we fear the existence of external objects, and what is our reaction, or what is the impact of external objects upon ourselves, and so on. In short, the five khandhas, the five aggregates, how the five aggregates happen, and how the five aggregates change, and finally, how the five aggregates disappear, and then happens again. This is the focus of the theory of dependent origin. In particular, Buddha taught us the five noble paths. The five noble paths. The first noble path is dukkha, the theory of sufferings. So, dependent origin tries to explain how our sufferings happen. Then we have the second noble truth. And when we understand the second noble truth, the cause of suffering, now, of course, we can conceive that there will be an extinction of suffering, because our sufferings happen because of some conditions, the conditions of sufferings. suffering have conditions. And if we don't have the conditions of suffering, then we can obtain nirvana. This is the goal of Buddhism. Nirvana means the extinction or the end of our suffering. This is the focus of the theory of dependent arising. The application of dependent arising, it means what can the dependent arising apply to? We have already clarified the structural principle of dependent arising in the abstract. As to its concrete application, we can distinguish between two types. One is general, and the other special. The general application can be seen in such instances which causal explanations are given for the arising of consciousness, the sequence of the cognitive process, the operation of the moral order, and so on. Dependent arising has also been used to understand the gradual evolution of society and the origins of social disorder, which from the Buddhist perspective stem ultimately from craving, as does individual suffering. We shall have the occasion to examine these causal explanations well appropriate in the chapters that follow. In that section, we have discussed the scope of the dependent arising as the middle doctrine. The theory of dependent arising keeps aloof from any relative concepts. We have already clarified the structural principle of dependent arising in the abstract. In the abstract means in philosophy. In philosophy, how the principle or theory of dependent arising transcend all extreme viewpoints. As to its concrete application, it means that we can use the principle or law of dependent arising to explain the concrete events. We can distinguish between two types. There are two types of application of dependent arising. One is general, and the other special. And as we know, that in Mahayana Buddhism, the theory of dependent arising is used to explain everything, not only in the scope of our human beings or different beings or the cycle of rebirth of human beings. Everything can be explained from the viewpoint of dependent arising. For example, in the Vijñāptimatrata, we try to explain that our experience happened due to the bija or the seeds in our Araya consciousness. The bija or the seeds can be translated as our habitual tendencies. Our habits happen unconsciously. It is because of there are habitual tendencies or bija in our other consciousness. And these habitual tendencies are the karmas we met in the past, not only in our past life, but also in present life. And of course, we have the dependent arising of the so-called Dharma Dhatu, the dependent arising of Dharma Dhatu in Huayan philosophy. And of course, we have another theory of dependent arising in Mahayana Buddhism. It is the dependent arising of suchness. Suchness, we can use the term of tathata. We have the tathata paticca samuppada. So actually, that the theory or principle of dependent arising can be used to explain all things in our life, the whole cosmos, the whole world. And on the other side, there is special application of dependent arising. Now we mention the general application can be used to explain the causes or the conditions, such as the arising of our consciousness. For example, our I consciousness depends on the contact of our eye organ and the external visible objects. And our hearing consciousness happen due to the contact of our ear organ and the sound outside. And our mental consciousness happen by many factors. We have the intimate factor, and we have the external object factor, and we also have the enhancing factor and the unconditioned factor. There are different kind of factors to determine the arising of our consciousness. The sequence of the cognitive process. The sequence means the order, how we cognize, how we sense, how we feel the external object. First, our sense organs contact the external objects, and the consciousness arises. We call it phassa. Phassa. And then we have the cognition of the external object. And after the cognition of the external objects, we have the sensation, we have the thinking, and then we have the volitional construction. And then we try to love, or we try to hate, and then we plant the bija or the seeds in our deep consciousness. This is an order of the cognitive process. And then we will be distracted by other things. Then we have another sequence of the cognitive process. The operation of the moral order. Moral order consists of shila, samadhi, and vipassana. And finally, we can develop wisdom. And so on means there are immeasurable events which we can explain with the theory of dependent arising. Dependent arising has also been used to understand the gradual evolution of society, how our society evolves in this way to present situation. This is the gradual evolution, how a society becomes the present situation. There is a process, the gradual evolution. Nothing happens accidentally. Nothing happens without condition. It is a gradual evolution. And the origins of social disorder, social chaos in the society, there are many disorder events. There are many accidents or incidents that we can explain the origins or the conditions or the causes of the social disorder. Then we can find the solution to solve the social disorder. From the Buddhist perspective, stem ultimately from craving as this individual suffering. It means that the social order happens because of the craving, of our greed, and our individual suffering is the same. Its origin is our greed, our craving. And our craving comes from our sensation. Our sensation comes from our contact, and our contact comes from our body and mental factors. And our bodily and the mental factors comes from our consciousness. Okay, this is the order or the gradual evolution of our individual suffering. We shall have the occasion, we will have the opportunity to discuss this unusual, this causal explanation. We try to find the causes or the conditions of the social orders of the whole world of our society and anything else, well, appropriate in the chapters of the next few chapters. It is on the special application of dependent arising that we propose to focus here. It means that in the third chapter, we want to discuss the special application of dependent arising. This can be seen in the 12-factor formula. 12-factor formula means this formula has 12 factors. They are linked together, whose purpose is to explain the causal structure of individual existence in its samsaric dimension. We have the 12-factor formula, and this formula is based on the principle of dependent arising. And we use this 12-factor formula to explain our individual existence in its samsaric dimension. samsaric is an adjective form of samsara. And samsara means the cycle of existence, the cycle of birth, existence, aging, and death. And then we will have rebirth. In future life, after we are reborn, we exist and age and finally die, and again and again in a cycle. So samsara means cycle of existence, in particular, the cycle of different beings' existence. It is in the form of soka. As already noted, for Buddhism, individual existence means the causally organized five aggregates of grasping. This is very important to remember. Our individual existence means our individual experiences. And actually, it refers to the causally organized five aggregates of grasping. Causally organized, it means all the five aggregates of grasping happen because of some conditions in a system of organization. Five aggregates of grasping makes us to have rebirth again and again in the samsara. What does the nirvana or nibbana means? The nirvana nibbana means the extinction or the ending of our grasping. Therefore, an arahant or a Buddha means the person who have the organized five aggregates, but no grasping. They just live in darkness or according to the happening of causation. They don't grasp at the birth, the aging, the sickness, or the death. They don't grasp at anything in relation to their five khandhas. Even they don't grasp at anything at the external object or any experiences, because they truly understand the fact of their existence. Their existence are dependent originated. So they live in darkness. When they are old, okay, they are old. They accept they are old. When they are sick, they have no suffering. They accept the fact of sickness. And when they die, they accept their death. Because birth, aging, and the sickness, and the death are nothing but the evolution of conditions. They don't grasp at anything. No grasping. That means nirvana. An arahant or a Buddha still has five aggregates, but they don't grasp at the five aggregates or anything else. They are totally liberated from grasping. Therefore, we can also say that the purpose of the 12-factor formula is to explain the dependent arising of the 5 aggregates of grasping. When there's the phenomena of the 5 aggregates of grasping, then we call it is an ordinary being, or beings in samsara, because they grasp at anything. Therefore, they do karma, that they will have the effect of karma, and they are caught in samsara. They are not liberated. An arahant or a Buddha is only the person free from grasping, no grasping at all. The 5 aggregates of grasping are not 5 static entities. Rather, they are constantly changing 5 aspects of individual existence, which always interact with the external world. It is not correct to say that they exist, nor is it correct to say that they do not exist. What is dependently arising is not definable, either by way of existence, aditta, or by way of non-existent, natitta. There's only a continuum of arising and season. The 5 aggregates of grasping are not 5 static entities. Entities means something concrete, something we can define, A, or we can define as B. This is entities. Static means unmovable, no moving, no changing. The 5 aggregates of grasping are not 5 static entities, means they are 5 ever-changing phenomena. Actually, we cannot call them as entities. They are changing all the time, moment by moment. Rather, they are constantly changing 5 aspects. So we say there are no 5 entities, but 5 aspects of individual existence, or the individual experiences. Our individual existence or experience can be divided into 5 aspects. These 5 aspects are called 5 aggregates of grasping, which always interact with the external world. The 5 aggregates always interact with the external world. It means that our 5 aggregates, our 5 khandhas, always grasping at the external world. It is not correct to say that they exist, nor is it correct to say that they do not exist. This is the middle doctrine. According to dependent arising, we cannot say that they exist, or also we cannot say that they don't exist. No. When there are conditions, then they exist. When there are no conditions, then they don't exist. This is from the angle of our experience, not from the angle of realism. Buddhism is not a kind of realism. In Buddhism, there is no reality. There is no entity. In Buddhism, we only emphasize experience. So, although right now we have the physical body, if we don't have the sensation or experience of the existence of our body, then in Buddhism we say that there is no body, because we don't have the sensation or feeling of the existence of our body. In this way, we cannot say that our body exists or not exist. Our body is a continuum of ever-changing. We cannot say right now we are alive, therefore we have the body. No, in Buddhism we don't say in this way. In Buddhism, we always discuss about the experience. In Buddhism, we don't mention the reality, or Buddhism is not a kind of realism. In Buddhism, there's no reality, there's no realism at all, because everything is dependent or united. Therefore, in Buddhism, there is no reality. The Buddhist philosophy is not a kind of realism, but it is a kind of experience. Because the Buddha emphasized his teachings concerns about dukkha, causes of dukkha, and the extinction of dukkha, and the way leading to the extinction of dukkha. Because everything is dependent origin, including our body and our mentality. All the five aggregates are dependent originated. We cannot call our body exists now, even we are alive, even we can talk. If we are out of our mind, for example, in deep sleeping, we don't have the sensation of the existence of our body and mental phenomena. Then from the Buddhist perspective, there are no five aggregates. And after our deep sleeping, we will make some dreams. Then at that time, when we are making dream, we have the five aggregates of grasping again. So we cannot call that our five aggregates exist forever. Even when we are alive, we cannot say that we have the five aggregates now. If we don't have the feeling or the experience of our five aggregates, then there are no five aggregates. When we have the experience, or when we have the sensation, or when we have the concept of the five aggregates, then there are five aggregates. In this way, after we die, although we call it death, but because of our habit, our tendency of grasping, that even after we die, our mind still grabs at our five aggregates. In this way, from the Buddhist perspective, after death, we still have 5 aggregates because we have the delusion of grasping. We grasp at the existence of our life, of our body, or of our 5 aggregates in total. Even after we die, we still grasp at that we have 5 aggregates. So from the Buddhist perspective, when we die, it is not total extinction. We call it, we will have the body out of our mental grasping because of our bijja, of our habit of grasping. Even after we die, we still grasp at the concept of 5 aggregates. And this is the direct cause of our next death, because we grasp at the 5 aggregates. What is definite arising is not definable either by way of existence, aditta, or by way of non-existence, no apita. There is only a continuum of arising and season. A continuum of arising and season. When we are alive, sometimes our 5 aggregates arise, and sometimes our 5 aggregates cease. There are some cases, for example, when we are in the state of coma. From the Buddhist perspective, it means our 5 aggregates cease when we die. At a very short moment, when we have no grasping, then our pure mind nature will appear, because we don't grasp at anything. And after that, our habit of grasping will come back again. Then we have the so-called intermediate existence. We call it Bado. We have the Bado, or the intermediate existence between death and the next death and the birth. This is called the Bado. And in general, actually, every moment, our existence is in Bado. This is the very unique teaching in Tibetan Buddhism. We have 6 kinds of Bado. So please keep in mind a continuum of arising and season. A continuum of arising of the 5 aggregates in total together, and a season of the 5 aggregates in total at the same time. From moment to moment, it is only a continuum of arising and season of the 5 aggregates. From the absolute truth, therefore we say that actually there's no death, there's no birth, there's no sickness, there's no aging. Nothing exists. This is transcendental thinking of existence or non-existence. This is the absolute truth. In relative truth, of course, we can call it birth, aging, sickness, and death. However, from the viewpoint of absolute truth, as it is explained again and again in the Prajna or Panya Sutras. We all say that there is no birth, there is no death, there is no form, there is no non-form. Everything is shunyata. Everything is empty in nature. We cannot call them existence or non-existence because everything is arising and ceasing again and again from moment to moment. Even we are alive now, we may have no five aggregates from the perspective of Buddhist doctrine, because Buddhism talks about experience, not reality. There is no reality at all. The 12-factor formula of dependent arising. This is the formula contemplated by the Patyaka Buddha or Patija Buddha. Patija Buddha means the enlightened being because of the contemplation on the 12-factor dependent arising. With ignorance of Vijja, Vijja means wisdom or understanding. Avijja is the opposite, means ignorance. With ignorance as condition are volitional construction, samkhara. Volitional. Volitional means the intention to do something or to speak some words. It is out of our motivation. Volitional construction, it is a plural form because we have many kinds of volition. With volitional constructions as condition is consciousness, vijnana, or vijnana in Sanskrit. Here, consciousness means the linking consciousness between death and rebirth, between this life and the next life, or in particular, the linking consciousness between last life and the present life. This is the very beginning of this present life. With consciousness as condition is mentality, materiality, nama rupa. Nama is similar to the English expression of name. There is no name, but there is no reality. Nama means mentality. Mentality consists of our sensation, our thinking, our volitional formation, contact, and attention, and other mental factors. This is mentality. In Pali, it's called nama. Materiality means rupa. Rupa. Materiality means the nature of material. That here refers to the physical aspect of our false existence of this life, nama rupa. With materiality and materiality as condition is the sixth form sense base, sar ayatan. Sixth form sense base. Why we use the surface of fold after sixfold. I mean, six aspects, but they are functioning together. They cannot separate from each other. Sixfold sense base. Base means the place to have sense, or the place where the external objects enter our sense organs. Ayatana. Ayatana. Ayatana means sense base, or in Chinese, we also translate as entrance. The sixfold sense base called Sar Ayatana. Ayatana actually means to arise something, to have something happen. This means that because of our sixth sense base, then we can arise the visual consciousness, or the hearing consciousness, the tactile consciousness, or the mental consciousness. In total, there are 6 consciousnesses. Ayatana. Ayatana means to arise from the sixfold sense base, or we can call 6 sense bases. From there, our 6 consciousness happen. With the sixfold sense base as condition is contact. Contact means phassa. The phassa has 3 factors. The first factor is our organ, our sense organ. The second factor is the external sensual object. And the third factor is the consciousness. When the combination or the happening together of our sense organ, sensual objects, and the consciousness, then we call it as phassa. With contact as condition is feeling. Feeling means vedana, or sensation. With feeling as a condition is craving. Craving means tongue hot, greed. We always try to grasp at something. Our grasping comes from our craving. If we are liberated from craving, then we will have no grasping. When we have no grasping, then we are in Nibbana. So we can have Nibbana from moment to moment. We may have 1 second of Nibbana. It means when we don't have the clinging or grasping, then we are in Nibbana. Of course, we can have 1 minute in Nibbana when we have 1 minute of liberation from grasping or craving. Then we can have 1 minute of craving. If we don't have the craving of 1 day, then we have 1 day in Nibbana. Nibbana happens from time to time. When we don't have the craving, when we don't have the grasping or clinging, then we are in Nibbana. Understand? We can attain Nibbana at any moment. When we don't have craving, of course, craving can extend to the hatred and the delusion. But most important is the factor of craving. If we have no craving, then we are in Nibbana. So Nibbana is not an abstract concept. It is not a kind of philosophical concept, but it is a daily experience. Not only daily experience, it can be a hourly experience, or it can be a military experience or secondary experience. We can experience a nibbana from time to time, from moment to moment. This means that we are in nibbana, and we are. If we can experience no craving and no grasping forever, then we are an arahant, or we are a Buddha. With craving as condition is granted, granted means upadana. So we have the 5 aggregates of grasping. That means the kanda upadana. Upadana means grasping or clinging. With clinging as condition is becoming. Becoming means bhava, and bhava is usually translated as existence, but as I mentioned before, that in a Buddhist concept, there is no existence. There is only becoming. Becoming means everything is changing. In this moment, it looks like this, but in next second, it becomes another phenomenon. So we use becoming. We cannot define it as existence. However, in Chinese language, it is very difficult for us to explain the meaning of bhava. That usually we misunderstand the meaning of bhava. As in Mandarin, in Chinese, we usually translate it as yo. Then we have yo, we have something. Then it becomes static. But there is no static condition in Buddhism. In Buddhism, everything is changing all the time. So from English or from Sanskrit or Pali, we can have a better understanding of a Buddhist concept. Bhava means becoming. We cannot say A becomes B, no. Or A becomes A1, no. A is becoming all the time. And B is becoming all the time. Our 5 aggregates are becoming from moment to moment. Our aggregates sometimes arise because of conditions. If there are no suitable conditions, then our 5 aggregates don't arise. Even when we are sitting here, or even when we are eating, or when we are doing something, if we totally immerse ourselves in the present time, then we don't have clinging and craving. That means that we are in nibbana, becoming. Please keep this word in mind. Bhava, not existent, not as Mandarin or Chinese say as have. In Mandarin, we translate as have, to have something. I, 缘起, 取缘有, 有 means to have something. No, it is a very difficult concept to translate bhava. In English, we can easily translate as becoming. Everything is a dynamic process of arising and a season. Everything is a continuum in the growth of changing. Okay, very important. With becoming as a condition is birth. Birth means jati. In Theravadan Buddhism, or even in Chinese Buddhism, we have the Jatara Sutta. Jatara Sutta is the sutta talking about the stories of the Buddha's previous lives. Jatara comes from Jati. Jati means birth. And at Buddha's time, there is a very famous physician, Jiva Qi-po. He is the most famous physician at Buddha's time. With birth as condition, aging and the death, grief, lamentation, pain, sorrow, and despair, jara, marana, sakka, parideva, dukkha, tamanasa, upayasa. And we have to keep in mind that the ignorance is not the very beginning of our samsaric experience. And death is not the end of our samsaric experience. They are in a circle. They arise and disappear, they come and then go. They are in a continuum of changing. So that stops here. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Cheng. There are some typewritten queries on the Zoom chat to clarify some specific doubts. The first one is a query from Hui Min to clarify a specific doubt on reconciling the scientific explanation and Buddhist conceptualization of the world. The question says, if there's no beginning or end, how does Buddhism view the existence of dinosaurs and the scientific explanation of evolution of man from ape-like creatures to cavemen and eventually modern men of today? Does it happen in a different universe? The second one is a query from K to clarify whether there's the concept of Bardo in Theravada Buddhism and whether Bardo is considered becoming.
Okay, these two questions concerns about actually the principle of dependent arising. There is no beginning or end, as I explained before. When our world or when our samsara, when the so-called the cycle of this life ends, or the whole world, the whole universe decays and disappear, then there will be a short time of nothing, and then the beginning of the world will come back again. So it is a kind of cycle. We call it samsara. Even the evolution of man from ape-like creatures to cavemen and eventually modern man happen because of conditions. There are numberless conditions. And if you want to put it in short, then the physical things have two so-called hatus, or two conditions, and the mental phenomena can be divided into four kinds of conditions. In Mahayana Buddhism, we say there are innumerable conditions to have one thing happen. Does it happen in the different universe? Yes, in Buddhism, we say there are numberless universe. As I explained, we cannot use the term of universe. Universe is a concept in Christianity. There's only one world created by the God. But actually in Buddhism, there are numberless worlds. The principle of dependent arising is the ultimate truth of our life and the external worlds. Therefore, this principle can be applied to all the phenomena. This is, of course, the principle in modern science, in physics, chemistry, or medicine. Everything can be explained by the principle of dependent arising. From one thing cannot arise another one thing. There are many conditions. There are many causes lead to many effects. If there are 5 causes, then there will be 5 effects. They are always in a continuum of changing. Okay. And how to reconcile the scientific explanation of karma? Okay. As I explained already, of course, the modern cosmology has different explanations of the whole universe or the whole world. And the explanation in Buddhist sutras or sutras are different, but it is not the key point. As we have explained already, Buddhism does not want to explain the beginning or the ending of the world. Buddhism tries to explain how our experiences arise. And the key point is we want to live happily. We don't want to suffer from our experience. The Buddhism doesn't want to explain the external world. The Buddhism emphasizes the ending or the extinction of our suffering. That is the third noble truth of Nibbana. So in Buddhism, the central concept is our suffering, causes of our suffering, ending of our suffering, and the ways leading to the ending of our suffering. Buddhism is not a kind of physics or chemistry, but the principle of dependent arising can be
Right.
in chemistry or physics or any other modern sciences. Okay. Should we continue to answer the question or should we just stop here?
There's a second question, whether there is a concept of Bardo in Theravada Buddhism. Is Bardo considered becoming?
Yes. Yeah. You are right. You are right. There is no beginning and there is no ending. All phenomena arise because of conditions, exist because of existence. Actually, we cannot call it exist, change because of condition, and then disappear because of condition. Every event happen just because of conditions, not by a creator God or any other factors. Okay, your understanding is clear and correct. Is there the concept of Vada intervada Buddhism, or her rebirth can be immediate? Okay. In the Theravada Buddhism, there's no concept of Vada, no concept of Vada. But we have to understand Vada. Vada, we have to understand Vada. Vada means in between or intermediate existence. This kind of existence is only a very short moment because everything is changing. So actually, there's no battle, even in Chinese, the Tibetan Buddhism. Battle is only a skillful means to explain the ever-changing phenomena of our existence. In battle is considered becoming too. Yes, of course, battle can be defined as becoming. So battle means in between. In between means every event, every moment, every phenomena is becoming, because every phenomena happens because of other factors, and it cannot remain forever. It is changing at the same time when it arises. So it is becoming all the same time. So actually, battle can be defined as becoming. Okay. Thank you all, brother, and all friends in online. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you for sharing your questions, class, and thank you, Professor Cheng, for the detailed exposition and discussion today of the theory of dependent co-arising in the third chapter of the book. Before we end this online Dhamma session, dear fellow class members, please turn on our video cams and let us put our palms together. Let us listen and repeat after Professor Cheng as we invite the professor to lead the class in the dedication of merits. Professor, please.
May all sentient beings understand and apply the principle of dependent arising. May all sentient beings understand and apply the principle of dependent
arising.
May all be well and happy.
May all be well and happy.
May the world be peaceful and harmonious.
May the world be peaceful and harmonious.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everybody. Brother.
Thank you. Good night.
Namo Amito. Please continue to put our palms together. In gratitude and with great appreciation, please give one bow to the professor and Dhamma teacher. Thank you, Professor Cheng.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.